Hello students, good evening. Welcome back to the 7th class science. So in the previous class we have completed the wind systems and lesson and started with a new lesson, soil. So you know about the introduction about the soil and how the soil is formed and why it is called as a natural resource, right? So how the soil is produced by the breakdowning of rocks with the action of wind, water and the climate, and they will form the soil. So this process we call it as a weathering, right? Yes. So based on this weathering, the soils having a different structures because the rocks are having a different textures, different materials in it. Based on that only we have differentiated the soil into a different types. We will study that in the today's class, but based on their texture, chemical properties, chemical things in it and material, we have classified them as a different soils. So for the taking the vertical section, means vertical section of a soil for the purpose of seeing its layer, that we call it as a soil profile. That is what we have make the soil into a 5 different layers. That is humus, water, clay, then sand and then the gravel. So these are going to differentiate the layers by using the water and the soil. Okay, so the taking of a vertical section of the soil for the purpose of seeing its layers, that process we call it as a soil profile, right? So we have studied about the humus and then the water, then the clay, sand and the last one is the gravel. So what is called a humus? Humus is nothing but the dead rotting material on the soil surface, that we call it as a humus, which is observed usually when we taken the some amount of water and pour some soil in it. When continuously stirring after some time interval, the soil is separated out from the water and the humus is floating on the surface of the glass, right? So that is we call it as a humus. So the soil is different in the some things like texture, as I already told. It is differ in the texture, color, depth and the chemical composition in it, that we call it as a horizons. I told it in the previous class. So in the today's class we are going to study about the detail about the soil profile. In the soil profile we are considering the horizons. There are 3 different horizons. Okay, that is mainly there are 4 types. In that there are A horizon, B horizon and C horizon and lastly the bedrock. So there are mainly 4 horizons. They are differing in case of texture, means structure about the atoms, molecules in the soil, and then the color, then the composition of the means chemical composition in it, and how much depth they are present. That we call it as a totally they are called as a horizons. The first one is a horizon. In this one we call it as it is a topmost soil. Okay, top soil, that we in generally refer it as a horizon. In this A horizon we can grow the so many plants. So this is the region where we can grow the plants. Okay, so in this region the almost all the insects like rodents, moles, worms, ants, so many animals and the insects, they have the shelter in this region. Okay, they will not go into a deeper. Okay, they will be present within the A horizon itself. So this is helpful for the protection, for giving the shelter as well as growing of the plants. This is about the A horizon. The roots of the plants that will be present within the A region. Sometimes the bigger trees that maybe leads to B horizon but not exceeds the B horizon. Within the certain range only the roots will be move here. Okay, the next one is a B horizon. So this is also a layer of the soil. In this region we can observe the chemical materials present in it. Means there is we can observe the chemicals and minerals present in the soil. For example, aluminium, that is air, and iron, that is Fe, and calcium. These are some chemicals or the minerals that are present deeper in the soil, in the layer which layer? In the B horizon. Okay, so these are not only minerals, so many minerals are present, but I have given you the only 3 examples. Okay, so the next one, it is B horizon is followed by the C horizon. So in this C horizon, we can observe the organic matters and some other minerals. Organic matters and some other minerals are present in the C horizon, and in this region there are some of the rocks which are like solid rocks. They are present in the C horizon, and then it is followed by the bedrock. In this region bedrock, there are plenty of rocks are present which are very close to one another, and they are very hard in structure. That's why we refer this bedrock as a hardest layer. Okay, so this bedrock is the hardest layer, and then the upper above the bedrock there is a C horizon. In that there are some small amount of rocks are present, and they contain organic matter and some minerals. And the upper above this C horizon there is a B horizon. In there we can observe the minerals like aluminium, iron, calcium carbonate, mica. So many minerals we can observe in this B horizon. And the next one is the A horizon, which is helpful for the growing of plants, and it will give the shelter for the small animals like rats, ants, worms, rodents, and moles, etc. So this is all about the soil profile. So based on this soil profile, we can differentiate the soils into a different types. Okay, in your surrounding, in your day-to-day life, you are observing a variety of soils like a brown soil, then black soil, then sand soil, and then the clay soil. Right. So these are the variety of soils in your day-to-day life you are observing. So what is the difference in that? You are going to study now. So the weathering of soils means weathering of rocks will produce a different variety of soils. In that the 3 types are sandy soil, clay soil, and loamy soil. Here I am written the 3 different types of soils here. So what is called a soil? Here it is, the mixture of rock particles and humus that we in generally call it as a soil. So the first type is a sandy soil, and then is a clay soil, and then is a loamy soil. So you may observe that what is a sand? In that it is like a smaller fine particles are present. That is the sand particles. And in the clay soil means what? It is a smooth soil. Some of the water is mixed. With this loamy soil means I will tell it. So in generally sandy soil, what is referred, that means in this sandy soil, the soil contains a greater proportion of big particles. It means what? The particles, means the soil particles or rock particles, whatever that are present in the sandy soil, they are greater in proportion. Means bigger particles, rocks, they are more in this sandy soil. Okay, so this is the main one. In case of a clay soil, what happens? The fine particles are here more. Okay, means very small amount of smaller rock particles are present. They are more in proportion here. Okay, so in this one, what? Bigger particles are present. In clay soil, smaller particles are present. So what will be the loamy soil? In between. What is that? The bigger particles as well as the bigger particles as well as the fine particles are in a equal proportion. Then we refer it as a loamy soil. Okay, so you got the difference. What is sandy soil, clay soil, and a loamy soil? I will repeat it once again. Sandy soil means what? The bigger particles are greater in proportion. In case of a clay soil, the fine particle or the smaller particles are greater in proportion here. So the loamy soil means what? the bigger particles as well as the smaller particles of a rocks are equal in proportion, that is a loamy soil. Okay. So in this sandy soil what happens? There are bigger particles are present. If there are bigger particles means what? There will be a large gap in between the these particles. So there is a air gap will be present in between these sandy particles. So when you pour the air in it, the air will passes through them very easily. You may observe that. When take a small amount of sand and pour some amount of water. What happens? The water pour it means the water passes through a sand materials very easily. You may observe that. So what is that main reason is the size is very large here and there is a air gap in between. Because of there is a bigger particle size. So that will create a air in between the two particles. Hence when the water is poured, it will passes through them very easily. So in case of a clay soil, what happens? When they are fine particles, means very small particles. So they are very close to one another. So in case of a clay soil, the particles are very close to each other and there is no gap in between them and there is no air gap. So when you pour water in it, they will absorb the water molecules in between them and the water will not passes through it very easily. So it will absorb more amount of water. In case of a water, clay soil. So what may be the loamy soil? So there is a equal proportion present. Then there will be a somewhat not much gap as between in the sandy soil and not very close as a clay soil. That will be a very in between. So it can hold us whatever amount of water is required. It will be absorb that and remaining water will be let it down. So these are the some different variety of soils and their properties. Okay. So it will not absorb the required amount of water, means how much it is necessary. No, that will be absorbed by the this loamy soil and the remaining will be going out. Okay. So these are the different types based on their structure and their they are based on their composition. So this is the types. Okay students, so as I already told, this loamy soil is a mixture of a sandy soil as well as a clay soil. So there is another soil present in our environment, that is a silt one. Okay, I will write here silt one. So this is also a silt soil, which is a component, means the particles are lying in between sandy as well as clay soils. It is also same as that of the loamy soil and it is the main component in the loamy soil and it has the capacity of water holding capacity, means how much amount required that will be absorbed by the silt soil. It is also a component of or another type of a soil present in the loamy soil. Okay, so I will give you one activity you can observe so that which type of a soil has the capacity of holding the water. Okay, so collect three different variety of soils. The first one is a sandy soil and the clay soil and then is a loamy soil. Okay, you may observe the sandy soil. Okay, sand you may observe that, collect that one. Clay means what? You may observe that in the near somewhat river regions. Okay, you take that place. And the loamy means what? In between these. Okay, so collect this type of a soil and make them into three different groups and go on adding the water to all the these soils and start to do some activity like make some first make some ball and do another things and then add water to those three and make them other different structure like make a ring and then make a cylinder, so that you can observe which type of a soil is having the capacity to hold the water. Okay, you may observe that sandy soil will be loses the water and it cannot be able to do even the ball. Okay, so that is what in case of a sandy soil. In case of a clay soil, you can do anything, any materials that will be easily made by this clay soil. For example, you may do the what mannettu, right? During the Mannettina Amavasya, you going to do the yettus, like yettu using this clay soil. Okay. And this loamy soil means what? That is nothing but the roadside soil. Okay. So these are all the 3 soils, and make sure that which type of soil has going to absorb the water. In the next class, I will explain this activity again, and I will explain the properties of a soil. Okay. Thank you.